Okay, let's unpack this. Dog zoomies. You know that sudden burst of crazy energy where your dog acts like they've just discovered the turbo button?
Yeah, exactly.
It might look like pure chaos, but what if I told you those zoomies are actually telling you something important?
What's fascinating here is that these seemingly random explosions of energy, sometimes called FRAPs,
Mhm.
frenetic random activity periods,
Right?
they aren't just your dog being goofy.
Right.
Think of it this way. Bouncy and playful zoomies are often a kind of thank you in dog language, while maybe more tense, frantic ones might be a help me.
Sure.
They're a real insight into what your dog is feeling, both physically and emotionally.
Exactly. And on this deep dive, we're going to zero in on zoomies. Still makes me smile saying it. And how understanding them is really key to unlocking, off-leash freedom and strengthening the bond you share with your dog. We've been digging into some great material, excerpts from Dog Zoomies and Off-Leash Freedom Workbook, and From Zoomies to Zen, Unlocking Off-Leash Freedom and Deepening Your Bond with Your Dog.
Right, and both of those are from Lorrie J. Harris. She's the founder of Coaching Canine Companions.
Yeah, and you can actually find a whole library of insightful audiobooks like these on her website. Really good stuff.
Definitely worth checking out. And we connect this to the bigger picture. Well, if you've ever scratched your head at your dog's sudden sprints or dreamed of that moment when you can confidently let them roam free, this deep dive is for you.
Yeah.
Our mission, really, is to extract the most crucial information from these resources, giving you a kind of shortcut to understanding this fascinating aspect of dog behavior and how it connects to training and trust.
So let's start decoding these zoomies then. It's more than just a dog having a wild moment, right?
Absolutely. The sources point to several common reasons. One big one is just joyful expression. Picture that post-bath burst of enthusiasm.
Oh, yeah.
Or the crazy happy dance when you walk in the door. It's pure joy in motion. Then you have energy release, which often happens after they've been resting or maybe in a confined space. It's their way of sort of shaking off that stillness.
Okay.
And interestingly, zoomies can also be a sign of stress relief, a physical way for them to release tension after something stressful maybe happened.
That difference between joyful and stress-related zoomies seems really important. How can you tell which is which?
Yeah, that's a really good point. The sources give us some clear clues. Joyful zoomies, they tend to be loose and bouncy, wagging tail, playful facial expressions.
Right.
They usually happen during or right after something positive. But stress-related zoomies can look quite different.
How so?
Well, the movements might be more tense, kind of rigid, and they often occur right after something stressful or overwhelming. You might also see other stress signals at the same time, like lip licking or yawning.
Ah, okay.
It's really about looking at the whole picture, the context, and their overall body language.
So it's not just about the running itself, but everything else that's going on. And these zoomies aren't totally out of the blue either, are they? We can look for patterns.
Definitely. Yeah, the sources emphasize that zoomies often follow predictable patterns. Things related to your dog's daily routine, their surroundings, their general energy levels.
Uh-huh.
Noticing when they usually happen, like the time of day, maybe what seems to trigger them, and how long they typically last, that can give you some really valuable information.
Okay, so if you want to get a better handle on your own dog's zoomies, what's the first step? What should you do?
Well, the Dog Zoomies and Off-Leash Freedom Workbook actually suggests a protocol for this. It recommends keeping a simple journal for, say, about a week.
Okay.
Just jot down when the zoomies happen, where they happen, and maybe how long they last. But the key is also to note anything that might have triggered them.
Like a little zoomie detective logbook.
Exactly. And what you're trying to figure out with that.
What are you looking for?
You're looking for those patterns we just talked about, the timing, the triggers, the duration. But maybe even more importantly, you want to describe what your dog's body language looks like during these Zoomie episodes and what was happening right before they started.
Ah, okay.
This will help you start to tell the difference between those happy Zoomies, the ones that might be due to stress, and even those that could be a sign of maybe boredom, which sometimes looks like restless, Zoomie-like behavior.
Right, because how you respond would be different for each of those, wouldn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, the protocol suggests having a plan depending on what kind of Zoomies you're seeing. For joyful Zoomies, it's all about making sure they have safe places to run, and maybe even joining in their fun with a game of fetch or chase.
Okay.
If you think it might be stress-related Zoomies, you'll want to focus more on calming techniques, perhaps some quiet time, or engaging them in scent work to help them relax.
Right, that makes sense.
And if it seems like boredom, well, the answer is more Stimulation sync, interactive toys, maybe an extra training session, or perhaps a longer, more interesting walk.
That makes perfect sense, responding to the root cause of the behavior, not just the zoomie itself. Now, the sources also talk about the instinctual energy behind zoomies. Can you explain that a bit more?
Yeah, this is where it gets really fascinating, thinking about how these behaviors connect back to dogs' wild ancestors. In a way, zoomies are kind of a modern echo of some really deep-seated instincts.
Oh,
The sources explain that in the wild, similar bursts of energy serve really important purposes. For example, young wild dogs will engage in these energetic play sessions. It helps practice hunting skills and build their endurance.
okay.
It's also a way for them to release any tension after maybe a moment of danger or high alert. And even within a pack, these playful sprints can help maintain social bonds.
So even though our dogs are living these, cozy lives indoors, they still have these urges boiling up.
Precisely. The sources highlight a few key instinctual drives that often fuel zoomies in our pet dogs. Exploration is one that a sudden burst of energy when they encounter a new environment or even just a new smell that could be linked to their ancestral drive to explore and understand their surroundings.
Right.
The chase response is another big one. That fast, sometimes erratic movement can be an invitation to chase, which goes right back to pack play and hunting behaviors.
Okay.
And then, as we talked about earlier, there's that release of tension. Those sudden bursts after being confined or experiencing stress can be a way of literally shaking off that nervous energy. It's a survival mechanism that's still very much a part of them.
Knowing that it's instinctual really changes how you see it. It's not just random craziness, it's something much deeper. So how do we work with these instincts instead of, trying to shut them down all the time?
Well, the key, as the sources point out, is really to respect and guide this natural behavior. Trying to completely stop zoomies, especially the joyful kind, can actually be quite frustrating for your dog.
Yeah, I can see that.
Instead, the focus should be on giving them safe ways to express that energy and maybe channeling it in positive directions.
Okay, give us some practical ways to do that. How do we guide it?
Well, creating safe spaces is really important. This could be a securely fenced yard or even just a designated area inside where they have enough room to run around without bumping into furniture or hurting themselves.
Hmm.
Joining in their energy can actually be a fantastic way to connect, play a game of chase, throw a ball, or even just run alongside them if you can.
Right.
And finally, teaching some calming cues can be helpful if the zoomies get maybe a bit too intense or happen at inconvenient times. Gentle cues like settle or place can help them transition back to a calmer state.
That makes a lot of sense, acknowledging the instinct, but also offering some gentle direction. Okay, so how do zoomies tie into building trust with your dog? That seems like a jump, but is there a connection?
Oh, there absolutely is. Here's where it gets really interesting. The sources explain that when you participate in or even just support your dog's zoomies, it can really strengthen your bond of trust.
How so?
Well, when you engage positively with their bursts of joy, it basically shows them that you understand and appreciate their natural energy.
It's like you're saying, I get you. It's okay.
Exactly. And just being close to them during these moments is also important. Your presence reassures them that you're part of their experience, which reinforces that feeling of connection and trust.
Okay.
And of course, providing that safe environment where they feel comfortable letting loose without worry, that further builds that sense of security and trust in you as their protector.
And it's not just about letting them run wild, is it? The sources talk about actively building trust through play.
Yes, absolutely. And the Dog Zoomies and Off-Leash Freedom workbook provides a specific protocol for this. It starts with just observing their free play, letting them explore in a safe area so you can learn how they initiate zoomies and what their natural play style looks like.
Okay, just watching this.
Yeah. Then it suggests introducing structured off-leash moments, maybe even using a long leash at first to practice recall during play. This starts to create that important link between having freedom and still coming back to you.
So even when they're having a total blast, they're learning that returning to you is still a good thing, still rewarding.
Precisely. And the protocol emphasizes using happy, encouraging tones, praising them enthusiastically, and staying physically close to them during their zoomies. It's about being an active participant in their joy.
Yeah.
And finally, ending these play sessions on a positive note, maybe with a high-value treat or a calm activity. helps create really positive associations with these interactions.
It sounds like it's all about being present and engaged in those moments of high energy. Now, another crucial part of building that bond is understanding and using body language. How does that relate specifically to Zoomies?
Well, dogs are incredibly good at reading our body language, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes even better than understanding our words. During Zoomies, your posture, your gestures, how you move, it can communicate a lot to your dog: encouragement, calmness, or even guidance.
So, if my dog is in the middle of a Zoomie, what should my body language ideally be saying?
Well, the sources suggest a few key things. If you're joining in, mirroring their energy with playful movements can really enhance that shared joy. Get low, move around.
Okay.
However, if their energy seems to be escalating, maybe a bit too much, using calming signals like standing still or turning your body sideways can help them regulate.
Ah, the calming signals.
The most important thing is to be consistent with your gestures and postures so your dog learns to understand what you're communicating nonverbally.
It's like having a silent conversation running alongside everything else. And how does this nonverbal communication then connect with training, especially when we're talking about Zoomies?
Well, the great thing is that you can weave training right into these moments of natural energy. For example, practicing recall during a Zoomie session can be really effective because you're asking them to come back to you even when they're highly excited. That's a big ask.
Yeah, that's challenging.
You can also redirect that energy into structured games like fetch or tug of war, which gives them an outlet for their energy while still maintaining a connection and practicing some self-control.
Right.
And ending those sessions with calm activities, like rewarding them for a sit or down, helps bring their energy levels back down in a positive way.
So it's not about stopping the Zoomies necessarily, but using that energy as an opportunity for connection and learning. And the workbook, the Dog Zoomies and Off-Leash Freedom Workbook, has a specific protocol for using body language to build trust, right?
Yes, exactly. It outlines steps
Right.
like engaging with that playful energy we discussed,
Yeah.
mirroring their excitement when they're zooming. Then it emphasizes using slow movements or turning sideways to help calm things down if their energy gets too high. Crucially, it recommends reinforcing training cues like recall or sit with rewards during these Zoomie moments. It shows them that even when they're full of beans, listening to you has positive outcomes.
Right.
And just like with the play protocol, it stresses ending calmly with treats or maybe a down command to help them transition smoothly back to a relaxed state.
It all comes back to building that two-way communication and a really solid foundation of trust. Now, all of this understanding of Zoomies and bonding seems to naturally lead towards what a lot of dog owners dream of: safe off-leash freedom. Where do we even begin with that? It seems like such a big goal.
It can feel big, yeah, but the sources are really clear that building a reliable recall is the absolute bedrock, the foundation of off-leash freedom.
Okay.
It's what ensures your dog's safety. If something unexpected happens, it builds both their confidence and your own, and it really deepens that connection between you.
So, come when called is the absolute #1 rule. What are the essential tools for teaching that effectively?
The sources highlight a few key tools. A whistle is incredibly useful because it provides a really consistent sound that can travel further and cut through distractions better than your voice sometimes.
Okay, a whistle.
You also need a clear recall cue, a specific word like come or here, used in a happy and encouraging tone, not like you're yelling at them.
All right, cheerful.
And of course, high-value rewards are essential. Think really special treats, maybe small pieces of chicken or cheese, whatever your dog finds absolutely irresistible, that gives them extra motivation to come running back.
Cut it. Whistle, cue, amazing treats. And how do you start putting those tools into practice? Where do you begin?
Well, the Dog Zoomies and Off-Leash Freedom Workbook lays out a protocol for reliable recall training that starts simple. Begin in environments with very few distractions.
Like the backyard.
Exactly, like a fenced yard. It suggests using a long leash initially. You introduce the whistle, maybe a short blast or two, immediately followed by your come command. And the second your dog gets to you, you reward them enthusiastically.
Okay, immediate reward.
Yes. And the protocol emphasizes pairing that recall with a clear finishing behavior, like maybe guiding them into a sit before giving the treat. It just adds structure. And then it's all about gradually, slowly increasing the distance of your recalls.
So you're building up their understanding and response in a really safe and controlled way before you even think about introducing harder situations.
Precisely.
And what's the progression then from practicing in your backyard to feeling confident enough to let them off leash in, say, a park?
The sources really emphasize a gradual layering of challenges. You start by increasing the distance of your recalls, then you slowly start to introduce distractions, maybe things like toys first, then noises, and eventually perhaps other dogs or wildlife, but at a safe distance.
Okay, step by step.
Changing where you practice is also key, moving from your secure backyard to other enclosed areas, like maybe a quiet fenced tennis court, and then eventually to more semi-open spaces. And the long leash, again, is such a valuable tool during this stage. It gives your dog the feeling of freedom while still allowing you to test your recalls and evaluate how ready they are in a more open setting. And critically, you still have that physical connection if you need it. It's about building confidence in both your dog's ability to respond and your own ability to guide them safely in different situations.
And there's a specific protocol for expanding recall and navigating those distractions, right, in the workbook?
Yes, there is. It suggests starting by testing your recall with pretty mild distractions in those controlled settings first. Then you use the long leash to give them that sense of freedom while still practicing recalls frequently. As your dog becomes more consistent, you gradually increase the distance and the intensity or complexity of the distractions. The key is to constantly assess their focus and reliability before moving on to the next level of challenge. Don't rush it.
Right. Pay attention to the dog. And then when do you actually take that leap and try going completely off leash? That seems like the scariest part.
It can be. The sources recommend starting in very secure areas, like fully fenced dog parks, where escape isn't really possible. Begin with really short periods off leash, maybe just a minute or two, keeping your dog engaged with you through play or rewards.
Oh, okay. Short bursts.
Yeah. Gradually increase the level of distractions in these secure environments, maybe other people walking by or some light activity nearby. Incorporating structured play during this time helps reinforce that they should stay relatively close to you.
Right.
And then, as they become more reliable in these settings, you can start to carefully venture into more semi-open environments like quieter parks or trails, always being super aware of potential hazards and how well your dog is responding.
It sounds like a very methodical, step-by-step process, building confidence at each stage for both dog and handler.
Exactly.
Now, we talked about body language earlier in the context of Zoomies, but it's also really important for off-leash training in general, isn't it? Using nonverbal cues.
Absolutely, it's huge. The sources highlight again how dogs are incredibly attuned to our physical cues. Using eye contact to get their attention, teaching hand signals for commands like recall or sit, and even just how your body is oriented. These could all be really powerful tools for communication, especially when your dog is further away from you.
So it's really about more than just the words we use, especially at a distance.
Definitely. Consistency is so important here. Repeating those familiar gestures and postures will help your dog understand them reliably over time. It's also about staying engaged through deliberate movements, using your proximity, strategically moving away to encourage them to follow, moving closer to reward, and reinforcing those gestures with rewards so they become really meaningful to your dog. And aligning your intentions with their instincts is also helpful, like using slow, calm movements to encourage focus, matching their energy levels when appropriate during play, and even just walking with confidence. All of that communicates a lot to your dog nonverbally.
And the Dog Zoomies and Off-Leash Freedom workbook has protocols for practicing this silent communication too.
Yes, it does. It suggests starting by teaching hand signals alongside your verbal commands, and then gradually fading out the verbal cues as your dog starts to understand the visual signals.
Okay.
Practicing eye contact, maybe holding a treat near your eyes, can help build their focus on you. Using your body language, like open gestures to invite them closer, small sideways steps to guide their direction, can also be very effective.
Right.
And rewarding them for just staying within a certain range without being explicitly asked helps build that connection and awareness of where you are. There's also a protocol for more advanced off-leash practice that specifically incorporates these nonverbal cues when they're actually off-leash.
Like what?
Like using your body orientation to help keep them nearby, gradually adding distractions while relying more on those silent signals, and even navigating open areas using just hand signals in your posture. Pretty advanced stuff, but very cool.
Wow, it's like unlocking a whole new level of communication with your dog. So, okay, to wrap things up for our listeners, what are the big takeaways here?
Well, I think the key takeaways are that dog zoomies are actually a form of communication, and understanding them, why they happen, what kind they are, can really deepen your relationship. Building strong, reliable recall, using positive reinforcement, and importantly, incorporating those nonverbal cues are absolutely essential for safe and enjoyable off-leash freedom.
Yeah.
And remember that it's a gradual process. It requires patience, and the entire journey is really built on a foundation of trust between you and your dog. And just a reminder, this deep dive has explored the insights of Lorrie J. Harris, founder of Coaching Canine Companions, drawing from her experiential audiobooks. You can discover many more like this on her website.
That's a fantastic overview, and it really emphasizes that off-leash freedom isn't just about, unclipping the leash, but about building a true partnership with your dog. So here's maybe something to think about. How might understanding your dog's seemingly wild instincts, like those bursts of zoomie energy, actually lead to a more profound and dependable connection, both when they're on leash and when they're exploring freely?
That's a great question.
Yeah, what other maybe chaotic behaviors might hold hidden messages about what your dog needs or feels? For more in-depth guidance and techniques, remember this deep dive was based on the experiential audiobook work by Lorrie J. Harris, founder of Coaching Canine Companions. You can find many more insightful audiobooks on her website. This is really just the beginning of understanding the rich and fascinating language of your dog.